and now that they want to pick the youth. You saw how the youth in London ravaged the city, and you see even in these Brexit and so. So globalization has produced a group of losers, and because then the international capital has come here, they have joined hands. They are in the same bed with those with political power, and then facilitated by the paper pushers, the influence peddlers. I know Minister so and so, I'll lead you here and so forth. They're getting their cuts. So at the end of the day, that capital with political power and influence peddlers have conspired to dispossess the people of their livelihoods, of their inheritance. And so that group that is being, and you see the economic disparities widening. And so that group, this type of policies, this type of actions are definitely resulting into pushing people into certain extreme views. So, and therefore, that now takes you even to inquire into the criminal state. You leave alone this one I've just described, that because you have not invested in agriculture for the last 30 years, and you have shifted wealth from the majority of people to a few people, and their assets and so forth, and now the Gini coefficient has reduced the measurement of income inequality in the country. So you may need to inquire into this, because how did we end up here? So and if this continues, what will happen? So I think you need now to look at, then you come to the action the government takes, because it's about preventing and countering. The countering of it, some people understand it in a way that is violent, fire with fire, to counter, or undermine it. How do you sabotage it? How do you counter-offensive? And for any counter, there will also be a counter-reaction. So I think that part of the study needs to focus on, and of course, the ministry may be interested in one side. They may not be interested in you discovering their weak parts of the state, because you're not touching on politics like you were told. Don't touch on politics. Leave that one alone. But then at the end of the day, it's about so the bottleneck is at the top of the bottle. That's why it's a leadership question. So it's about leadership again. So when you come now to that part of Shabab, of course, Uganda has had experience. So those of us who handled, whether it was ADF, whether it was throwing bombs in town and something like that, or had to counter, or what did we learn from it, or even win some people out and to be in government and so forth. So that group has a richer issue in terms of your key informants, in terms of your focus groups and so forth. So but is there anything changed in the modus operandi, the way they operate? So when they were making those flasks and putting on mini price butter or taking to Belex bar to explode and something like that, maybe these ones of ISIL and Shabab have advanced beyond that to what now, for you to be able to pick the different trends. So I was very happy that actually you spoke to, like I told you that, yes, by the time Westgate took place, from what I was following, I could say 1,700 or so East Africans already that were recruited, that were being radicalized and coming back in different places and different cells. Now, I'm sure that's why I'm saying it could have gone to 3,000 now. So that's why you're seeing that the ones they're using are not necessarily Somalis from Somalia. They're using Kenyans, they're using Ugandans. They will be using, so they're localizing these groups. So when it is happening, how is it happening for us to be able to map out how to prevent and so forth? So my advice then is if you like, there are two sides of your research, and both of them require sensitivity and require different actors, partners to work with you to get to the bottom of both ends. Yes. From the government side, what is government not doing or doing? What should government do differently to avoid this? And then again, from the community side, what should be done and what are the responsibilities of different actors at different levels to deal with this? Like you mentioned about poor parenting now, which seems to be taking place. You go to a family, the husband is also busy on Facebook, on what, the wife is also busy, the children are busy talking to other people. So when will this family talk to itself in terms of, so you find that more outsiders are having more influence in these kids than we the parents. Is there a way we can close our phones by 8 p.m. and we talk to ourselves? So Jamal, I mean, what do we need to do? So that the parenting, and then the single-headed households, and then there are those who have lost their dear ones in such a brutal way, and then what happens then to those kids? How are they being brought up? They have missed a father. So, and then there are teachers who are sharing responsibility with the parents, because how much time in a year do children spend in school with the teachers? How many time are they with the parents? So with the clergy. So I think this is a shared responsibility. Now, how are we treating our teachers who are also molding these young ones? So when we neglect teachers, and yet they are handling a very delicate group, okay, who are going to be citizens tomorrow. So you ignore teachers at your own peril, because then you're putting your society at risk. So I hope your study will bring most of these issues. But lastly, it's going to be traumatizing for your researchers, including you, the principal investigator. So I hope you start to have a psychologist around, so that by the time you come from the field, you need to go for counseling and for you to go back to end these 3 years. So what am I saying? Thank you very much.
I just wanted to refer to what the youth are saying. I think I wanted to allow his peers that maybe the constitution of this Inception meeting was done by people who are rather insensitive to youth matters. No. What we did, we invited at policy level officials from gender, labor and social development. That is where youth issues are anchored in this country. Now, for their failure to turn up, and they have not yet communicated to me, it wouldn't be very fair on our side that we are being treated like that. Secondly, we also invited Ministry of Education, because we also believe that many institutions are controlled and supervised by, and institutions are controlled and supervised by Ministry of Education. Plus there are also other many ministries. So I cannot tell why they did not show up here, but all of them were invited. Now, leave alone that one now. You see, the issues which the investigators are going to look into in the current dynamics in terms of security is a very grave matter. Just last week, I was in Karamoja. That is a cluster where 40,000 guns were removed, and who were the majority of these gun holders, the young ones, the youth. There is one who refers to himself as a general. I will not quote his name here. And he's about 33 years old. He's not a retired general anyway, because he was disarmed. What was he telling me? He said, now you see, sir, I am here, I'm helpless. You see, when I still had my AK-47, I had 6 women, I had cows. But you know, because now I don't have this gun, all these women have run away because I'm a poor man. I can't, you know, just give me something, I go and drink something here. So that is also the level of frustrations, which is now kind of rampant in the community. Mr. Charles Vomusana was talking about the land question, talking about mineral discoveries, talking about the leadership which David has just talked about. The government effort in Karamoja under KIDP, that was the restoration of peace in terms of also bringing development. But if you look at the leadership and then certain areas are left marginalized, and then you leave it to, you know, the revenge of nature. You only go there because you are going to extract something. Is that what motivates the leadership? But the title in here is very good, holistic and integrated approach. So national leaders must look at these issues which is affecting the nation holistically, right from Koboko up to Busia, right from Opakpot in Kabong up to Kisoro, so that every planning, that conception of national approach, I think we have even invited somebody from National Planning Authority.
Yes.
Because all this, you hear this youth are talking about, all the other region is like this, all this other region is like this. So that's my little contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Issues of teachers, you know, into this study. I'm not saying they should not be studied. But you see, parents are also, I don't see a parent in the home radicalizing a child. I see a parent making comments. You see, we don't have salaries. We are suffering because this is happening out there. And the child learns that there is a government out there, there is a leader out there, there is a condition out there that is pushing my parent to the edge. I don't see teachers, you know, these are theaters where conditions outside become manifest. I'm trying to try and understand violence as an expression, a reaction, and extremism being outside the norm, combining those to see what the parent does in that process. If we are studying them as part of the preventive strategy, excellent, and what we can do. If we are studying them as part of, you know, that is wrong. These people are, you know, this is why I was concerned about how these concepts are going to be operationalized. Inclusiveness, prevention, violence. What type of violence are you talking about? What type of violence are you talking about? If you bring up a boy in the home and you cane him every now and then because he's bad-headed, are you training him to be violent? And therefore, he can express that when he grows up in some way as part of reacting to the discrimination and exclusion that is out there, and the poverty and the corruption, and that the child, because you beat that child up in the home, part of the response is to beat up others out there because they discriminate him. I don't know. I'm trying to understand and say, where does that come in? We might end up addressing the wrong thing, and I don't see it happening, being of value to this study. Their role as a preventive strategy, well and good, but as part of the process to explain why this occurs, why is this escalating, and why is this, I think the conditions that explain that are a little bit lie outside the home, and even to greater extent the school.
Take on the session or way forward, I think, for the just
one comment that I can make is that there is evidence showing that youth are beginning to lead youth. There are youth who are now beginning to be heads of households, and they assume position of authority and position of leadership, and they can only link up and understand their fellow youth.
If somebody falls from the sky and say, okay, I'm 70 years old and this is what we want in the society, they may not even want to listen and see, attend that kind of meeting. We have seen that already. Because when we were asking questions about who do you trust in your society, and no question about it, they would just say, I trust my fellow youth who understands me better. And at what point do you interact with elders, with families? It's only when I need food, only when I'm coming to sleep, only when there is something that I need from them. And I know they can provide. If they don't, then we'll do it our way. This is a generation that we are seeing. This is a generation that we are thinking we can bring together and then work with us. This is not a policy generation. They live from hand to mouth. And these are generations who have no parents. And some of them are in the streets, have been in the streets. If they're lucky, they have gotten education for more than maybe 5, 6, 7 years. And they're brilliant, intelligent. I was tested by one of the youth, and she asked me, you know, if you're working, please take care of your money in the pocket. Then immediately I reached to my pocket and I started organizing my money which I had in the pocket. Then one of them said, you see how I can steal your money? I didn't even know you had money. So you have shown me where the money is. My work is done. And now our groups are there watching you. They will deal with you in the next phase. This is how we live. And don't think we are stupid. It is you, the elders, who are stupid. You don't understand us. So this takes us to, how do we really understand our youth of today? I will come to your council church and others. So this is something that we need to really go deeper and understand and make a difference, and not reproduce papers which are already out there. The countering also, what we have not talked about, is also looking at the discourse that we use in societies today as part of the tool for countering violent extremism. What word should we use to a child when we get home? When a child comes to you and you're tired and you just throw the child away and say, go to your mother. Yeah, I'm tired, don't you think I'll be doing these things? And a child is being suspended from your thigh all the time. That child listens to the kind of, the words that is being pushed into the mind. Leave alone the madarakas and churches and society that we are hearing many things coming from. So part of the country is also how to understand the discourse around CVE. So many people have written about the discourses about CVE, which we need to take into consideration. I think I will not say much, but this has been very helpful. And I don't know what stage we are left with right now.
The board is violent. If you have been hearing the narrative of the Uganda government in relation to the Rwenzori crisis, about the Konjo of Congo, if you followed the killing of tourists in Mutahinga National Park, it was about a group that came from the Congo. That is the conflict in South Kivu and the North Kivu, which of course relates with our history. But to the youth, if you are talking of the FDLR now, FDLR, how can I put it? FDLR. Yes, this rebel group in the Congo. And their parents were killed in the refugee camps because the entire community literally went to exile. Now you have children who are above 22, because Kagame now is 22 years old. So they don't know their parents because they died in the jungles. They even don't know Rwanda, and where they will pass through is violent. So that kind of kid is different from a kid you are talking about. This is a kid born in a refugee camp, and the only history he has is that all the parents were wiped out, may not even see the mass graves, and is looking forward to retribution. The second one is the LRA kid. I know what I'm going through to bring up children. How is it possible that LRA, in those situations where they are in the jungles, when they take kids, all the kids remain alive? you see them, women later with children. But when we stay with them, you call it the mortality rate. What do you call it? The infant mortality rate. The Uganda government with the kids, they die in big numbers. But the other group with no facilities, they stay alive. Is this narrative correct? Because we also need to find out that. Why don't these children run away when they are there? How do they survive? How do they live? For us, we are suffering with the drugs. I mean, medication, consultants. But for them, how do they manage there? The mobile, the weather, the lack of food. So how is that kid? Because we need to study that kid, who is now a commander in UPDF. Because most of them have been integrated in our military. They were abducted kids. They've gone through that system. So is what they tell us the correct thing, or there is a story they don't give us?
Yes. I am speechless for the very first time. The whole day, the people who know me, I don't even say a word. Because of the passion with which each one of you has been interrogating. How do we target youth? How do we include the youth? On behalf of PeaceNet in diaspora, and yes, in Uganda it is in diaspora, but I mean, and also on behalf of this consortium, I want to first and foremost extend our most sincere gratitude and say thank you and say awadifo and say apoyo and say webale munonga and say asante sana. Eyala manoi, alanga manoi, webale nyo webale nedala. Because we had invited you at no notice. I know lawyers who would come out and say, that is a surprise, I'm not coming. But you took a leap of faith and you came at no notice. Our deserve. To Nixon, what do I say? The one and only. With whom we moved in all the corridors of the Ministry of Internal, almost